Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Zainul Mukhlisin and I'm a freshman in the Faculty of Social Science and Politics, University of Tanjungpura. In there, I'm studying international relations. In this opportunity, I will bring to you the fundamental material to study international relations. Please enjoy. Balance of power, or BOP in short, is a concept of balance between countries or alliances to prevent one country to become more stronger over another. Balance of power is aimed to prevent one entity to obtrude their will and disrupt other countries, so it can establish a balance between international structures among every country in the world. This system is considered capable to maintain the security of international order because there will be no country that will be make trouble for other country. The term balance of power came into use to describe the relationship between European countries from the end of Napoleonic War until the start of World War I. Within this relationship, the British holding the actor of the balancer. Balance of power can be achieved by doing two things. First is to improve their own power, and second is to make alliances and cooperations with other countries. The example of balance of power system is when the US and Soviet Union competing each other in every aspect, especially in military and politics. Because of the balance of power between these two countries, they won't be able to attack each other because it will harm their own country and it will also disrupt the stability in the international world. So this balance of power system is proven effective to prevent war and to establish the security in the international order. Now we'll continue to the second material of this subject. It is the 5 level of analysis in international relations. So, in order to examine a phenomenon that later will be used in the research, surely we need a deep level of analysis. In international relations, we have a level of analysis. By using this level of analysis, it can be known that there is a pattern of behavior that can be researched and predicted. There are 5 levels of analysis in international relations, and now I will explain it one by one. The first is on individual level. The international relation phenomena is basically happen because of interactions between individuals that are involved in it. For example, the president and his ministers, and every interactions between the leaders of the country in the world. What had happened in international relation is an accumulation of behavior between individuals that join in a group. So this phenomena is observed as a relationship between individual groups of various countries. For example, cabinet in the government and all the ministers in every country. The reality in international relation is represented by the behavior of countries that are involved in it. Because of international relations, countries are considered as the dominant actor when it comes to foreign policy. Therefore, we need to examine the process of decision making and how the countries making their foreign policy to interact with other countries. In the fourth position, we have multi-state level. Usually, countries didn't act alone when it comes to international relations, but act as a group. So the phenomena of international relation is more reflected as the interactions between a group of nations in the international world. And the highest level is international system level. Nations and other actors in international relation is basically only a unit that are contained in a larger system called the international system. Every actors are interacting each other in this system. Thus, according to this level of analysis, the dynamic that occur in the international system affect the behavior of international relations that are actors within it. Now for the third material of this subject is paradigm. Paradigm is someone's perspective about himself and his environment that will influence his way of thinking and behavior. There are many paradigms that are influenced so much in the theory of international relations, and now I will explain 6 of them. The first paradigm is realism. Realism considered that humans basically tend to be egoistic and competitive. This paradigm has an assumption that focuses on 4 ideas. First is international system act as an anarchy. This means that a nation is an independent actor regarding an establishing relationship with other country because there is no entity that can control every country in the world. No entity or no organizations have the power to do so. The second point is a country is the most important actor to establish relationship with other country. And the third is countries when it comes to establish and making a relationship with other country is tend to be rational. This means they would not want to have a relationship or cooperations with other country if it is not beneficial for them. And the fourth is the main goal for every country is to survive in this anarchy system that happen in international world. That's why every country will always try to improve their security and power that in the end would cause a security dilemma among the countries over the world. Notable figures for this paradigm are Thomas Hobbes, Niccolo Machiavelli, and Hans Morgenthau. The second paradigm is idealism. Michael W. Doyle described idealism as a faith based on the belief that a country's good intention can be trusted. By idealists, humans are naturally a kind and peaceful creature. So idealism tend to be normative and believe in the importance of principles, laws, morals, and socials. Idealism have 2 main theories that are stating in their paradigm. First is the origin of human is kind and peaceful, so it can help and cooperate each other, and humans naturally did not want a conflict or war. And the second is war is not everyone's will, but happen because of accident, and it can be prevented by establish an international law and order that manage the relations between nations. Notable figures with this perspective are Hadley Bow. This paradigm resulted in the formation of League of Nations, but then encountered a crisis of confidence after proven wrong in World War I and World War II, because after the formation of international organization, which is League of Nations, war is still even happened twice. The third paradigm is pluralism. This paradigm considers international relations is not only limited to relations between nations, but also include every actor and group with interest in it. So the state is not always the main actor in international relations. Pluralism stated that, first, non-state actors are also important in the world of international relations. Second, state is not the main actor of international relations. Third, state is not a rational actor. Sometimes, in the making of the decisions, state is influenced by conflict, competitions, and cooperations with other countries. The fourth, international problem is not only strict in power, security, and politics, but also include economy, social, culture, and etc. Notable figures with this perspective are Robert Q. Hine and Joseph S. Nye. Okay. The fourth paradigm is liberalism. Basically, liberalism is kinda similar with pluralism that I have explained before, because they have the same opinion that the state is not always the important actor in international relations. Liberalism also believes that economy and politics are two separate things. That's why, in this case, we don't need the intervention from the authority, in this case government, in the market. This also matches with the theory of invisible hand that has been brought by Adam Smith. One of the famous liberals' theory is that economic interdependency can prevent countries to attacking each other because they need other countries to support their economic activity. The second theory, which is related to the President Woodrow Wilson from USA, is that democracy is the main key to world peace, based on the reason that democratic countries are tend to be more peaceful than authoritarian countries. And the fifth paradigm is behavioralism. Behavioralism has three principles. First is that the state is the decision makers. Second, state actions are the actions that taken by those who act or representing the state. And third is to understand the behavior of the state, we need to understand from the perspective of the decision makers and what factors are influence them. Those are the subjective factors from the decision makers' point of view and the potential resources that found in the understanding of decision makers. Notable figures for this paradigm are Cinder, Rosnow, and Lloyd Jensen. And the sixth paradigm is constructivism. Well, basically, constructivism assumes that international politics is a result of a social constructions. There are two main ideas in this constructivism. First is that structure that integrate human is more determined by shared idea than material. For example, this means Islamic countries are tend to cooperate more with other Islamic countries, or liberal countries are tend to collaborating with fellow liberal countries. And the second point is identity and interest of certain actors are formed by this shared idea, not naturally or accidentally from the point of the actor itself. This means the actions that can trigger some political phenomena is not purely caused by the motivations from the actor itself, but most likely caused by the result of interactions between the actor and its environment. Notable figures in this perspective are Karl Deutsch and Ernst Haas. And now, continuing to the fourth material of this subject is 5 general principles of IR that are fundamental when you are studying international relations. First is role. Role means if somebody doing his rights, obligations, and responsibility that are suitable with his status, it means that he is playing his role successfully. Role can also define as expected behavior from someone who has a status. This includes its duty, responsibility, and rights on his level of authority. The second principle is influence. Influence can be described as the capability of a person to affect other people's behavior and way of thinking with certain way that match with the influencer's desire. For example, economic status can give influence for someone so his opinion matters more in the public. And the third principle now is cooperations. International cooperations can be formed because of interdependency in various aspects of life. You need other country and also other country needs your country. The important issue of international cooperations is how much benefit can you get from these cooperations. This usually become the main considerations when we want to set up cooperations with other country. The fourth principle is system analysis. In international relations, system analysis have an idea that international phenomena is very diverse and cannot be categorized. Therefore, there should be a system in the environment and creating interactions between parts in this system. So we need to understand this system as a whole thing. And the fifth principle is national interest. National interest basically is a goal or aim of a nation when doing his activity in international relations. It reflected the behavior of the nations in the international order. National interest is also one of the main things that influence a nation in creating their political policies and how they interact with other nations. And now, for the last chapter in this subject is Sixth Principle of Political Realism by Hans Morgenthau. Hans Morgenthau is one of the biggest international politic figures in 20th century. He gives a very impactful contribution for study of international relations with his book entitled Politics Among Nations. These are six principles in political realism that are brought by Dr. Morgenthau. The first principle is objective law. Politics is determined by objective law that based on human's essence or human's nature. To fix the society, we need to fix the law that manage the society itself. It also believed that this objectivity can develop the rational law that reflected the objective law. This objective law is considered to be able to differentiate the truth according to rationality and objectivity. And the second principle is power. The concept of interest, which is defined as power, is considered too forceful to include intellectual discipline into a political problem. So, realists will be cautious about misunderstanding between motives and ideological preference. They assume that political reality is filled with uncertainty and influence the decision making of foreign policy. And the fourth principle is universal moral principles. This principle believes that an individual behavior in moral and politics cannot be applied in the formation of foreign policy because the value of morality is different for every people. The thing we may see as something good might be seen as something bad for other people with other culture. Who knows? So this principle believes that wisdom in form of consideration as an alternate consequences of political act as the highest favor of politics. And the fifth principle is a set of universal principles. Basically, politics is a struggle of power. We can state that every country is aimed to gain more power. Therefore, this principle allows us to be fair. In other meaning, we can judge other nations just as we judge ourselves, and because of that, we can respect interests from each country as long as we can maintain our own interests. And then, the sixth principle from Hans Morgenthau is the difference between paradigm and politics. Realists tend to be maintain the autonomy in politics and still admit the existence and importance of other ideas. Political realism is based on the essence of humans itself, which is a combination of economic men, political men, religious men, and etc. From this idea of Morgenthau, we can determine the basic theory that I mentioned in the paradigm sections about realism, which is an anarchy system in the international world, human origin that are tend to be greedy, and the struggle for power as the fundamental goals of every country. Sorry before, but I forget to mention that there is another principle of political realism by Hans Morgenthau that I left hanging before. It is dynamic, objective, and universal. Interest is tend to be dynamic, objective, and universal. The motives that define the political movement of a country can be seen from the context of politics and culture in respected countries. In this case, the aim of every country can be involved every set of goals that we ever wanted to achieve. This interest is also need to be dynamic, which is always fluctuate according to the conditions of international politics. So that's all from me. These are the fundamental materials that you will need to learn to understand international relations from the basics. See you and have a good day.